DJ Cunningham was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD, and that set him on a path to discovering the tools and supports that he needs to learn, how he learns, and how others learn as well. He knows that helping kids discover the tools they need and understanding a student's learning style can significantly affect their life's trajectory. At just age 24, DJ co-founded LEARNstyle Ltd, Ontario's largest K-12 educational training company. Today, DJ Cunningham has graciously agreed to share his story with us. Hi, DJ, and welcome to the Market Red podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, when did your family first start to notice signs of dyslexia in you?
Definitely early elementary school. And I would say it wasn't so much me, it was my brother first. My brother, who is 3 years older than I, he really struggled with language as I did. And I have to be thankful for my older brother because he somewhat paved the way for me. My mother was a huge advocate for him, got him tested, got him the supports that he needed. That then benefited me as I started going through the education system. So for me, it was really early elementary. By grade 4, I had my formal diagnosis of having dyslexia and ADHD. This was back in the late 80s, 90s. So the supports we know of today weren't completely there, but any sort of supports that the school had began to come to bear at that time.
So how did it affect your learning journey in terms of just, overall dyslexia? How did it affect your life as a kid?
That's a great question. I was pretty aware of it. I was aware of it because I was asked to do things in class, which I just wasn't able to do. And I have vivid memories of being in grade 4, being asked to go to the board and write on the board and not knowing how to write the words I was asked to write. And then having classmates laugh at me and point it out. And that took a pretty negative effect on my self-esteem. And it's something that really lasted with me and persisted with me right through my kindergarten through grade 12, really education journey. So it had, I would say, it had a pretty negative impact in terms of my inability to be able to feel normal and fit into my classroom environment the way that a quote unquote normal person would.
So did it affect your reading, writing, grammar, or kind of a combination of those?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have specifically what's known as dysphonetic dyslexia. So that really affects my ability to make sound words associations. So this affects things like spelling, reading, and also with the added advantage of having ADHD, there was a massive focus challenge. So it really impacted right across the academic spectrum.
So what kind of support did you get from your teachers at the time?
At the time, it was, in my opinion, it was kind of out there. They were trying various techniques in terms of giving me specialized glasses that had different colored lenses. So as you can imagine, somebody already struggling to fit in, then being prescribed a pair of glasses that had different lenses, that didn't bode so well. There's a lot of withdrawal support where I was given an opportunity to work one-on-one with a special education resource teacher. There was nothing really addressing dyslexia. It was really more, I would say, hand-holding. It was a lot more pulling me out of the class to give me that extra time with somebody to try to support me through just getting assignments done. It wasn't so much building skill development or helping me with strategies or things of that nature.
So how did you make it through then?
Oh, that's a great question. Maybe by the hair of my chinny chin chin, perhaps. I had a really phenomenal support network at home. My parents continue to be phenomenal, and they really wrapped a lot of support around me. My father was in education, so he made himself available to help support me the best he could at home. He often, and my mother as well, often describes receiving my brother and I a little bit battle torn at the end of school, and it was their job to love on us, to kind of fix us up, bandage us up to kind of push us back out into the fray the very next day. It was a lot of just rigor through trying to have my head down and get through the system. I would say a lot of teachers somewhat just passed me through because they weren't exactly sure what to do with me and how to support me. And it really wasn't until later in life that I started realizing assistive technology and some other supports out there that truly began to allow me to become independent with my learning.
Did you have an aha moment at any point?
Oh, that's a great question. Definitely. It was in university. I had the good fortune of landing at Trent University in Peterborough, Ontario, and they had a phenomenal disability service department there. I really didn't have much association with them for my first semester or the majority of my first semester, being that I didn't want to fully admit that I had these learning challenges. And again, I wanted to be more normal, if you will. But it's when I was pretty much filling out of that first semester, being that I had signed up for 8 courses, not realizing I should only really have 4 in a semester. And the only reason I thought I should have 8, the high school I went to was a termed school. So we had 8 courses all year long. I was in twice the course load. I was completely sinking. There was so much reading that I wasn't able to make sense of it at all. I was pretty much failing out. And again, it was my older brother, who happened to be at the same university as I, kind of took me aside and shook me a little bit and said, listen, you got to go and get yourself some assistive technology. It's going to change everything. And when I was given my first computer system that allowed me to have textbooks read out loud to me, that's when everything changed. Then people will often describe this as that moment where you are having a hard time with vision and then you're given glasses and just clarity happens. That's kind of what I felt when I was given some assistive technology to help me overcome some of the challenges that dyslexia makes for me on a daily basis.
What a relief. And I imagine that must have really been a nice boost for your self-esteem at the same time.
Massive. And you know what's interesting about that? I would say not the self-esteem initially, that came in time. It was more confidence. It was the fact that I was able to begin to get through some work and have some success with it. And it was really the repetition of success that started to shift my belief system. You have to understand, up until that point, I truly felt stupid. I truly felt dumb. I truly felt like I was a bit of an imposter in academia all the time. And it wasn't until that confidence with the success of being able to begin to learn that self-esteem slowly grew and grew and grew until my belief system changed. And I said, I'm not stupid. I do learn differently. And when given the right tools, I can have equal access to the learning that other kids have.
What did you originally go to university for?
That's an interesting question. And the reason it's interesting, I went there as a history major because I enjoy history, not realizing how much reading was involved and how much essay writing was involved. And it was really a learning strategist that pulled me aside during that tumultuous first semester and said, what are you doing in history? There's so much reading and so much writing. You are much more suited for business. There's more group activities, there's more presentations. That definitely fits your kind of learning modality and some of the skills and strengths you have. So I made the shift over to business, and that too changed everything because I started to learn the true strengths that I did have that I would say aren't as conventional, if you will, when it comes to your standard academic skill set. And it was those things that I learned to lean into that started allowing me to gain more and more academic success.
Such as?
Things like being able to present, being able to go and talk to people. We had this one assignment in an entrepreneurial course I took where we were given $5 and we had a week to turn it into $1,000 cash, and we had to put it on our prof's desk, and it was a pass-fail scenario. So this really challenged me to go out and figure out and think creatively, which I'm good at, on how to solve that problem of turning $5 into 1,000. And my group, we were successful in that. But to me, that was such a rich learning experience, but it's not really something that you would ever think of as the conventions of what you you would be doing in a in an education environment.
Well, it's not something you can study for, I don't think.
Not at all. No, not at all. It's just learning to put yourself out there. And I suppose one of the reasons why I believe a lot of people with learning differences are successful is we're constantly having to figure stuff out. Nothing feels like it comes easy. So there's a grit and a resilience that is growing and fostered from a pretty young age. That when given an assignment like that, here's $5, turn it into 1,000. A lot of people crumble under that, but I don't know. For me, it was just kind of challenge accepted. Let's figure this out.
So you struggled all the way through elementary and high school. You get to university, and all of a sudden it all comes together for you.
100%. Yeah. Being given the opportunity to have that assistive technology, having some phenomenal psychologists and learning strategists around me that helped me understand my dyslexia and my ADHD. That was the gift that truly changed my life. That then allowed me to, as mentioned, have confidence and grow my self-esteem.
And now you finish university, I'm assuming, with a business degree.
Yes.
And then at the age of 24, you decide to parlay that into a business that connects to everything we've been talking about here today.
Yeah. So the success lent itself to becoming a deep burning passion inside of me. And when I left university, and for those parents in particular that are listening, you'll understand this. Me, being in my early 20s, living in university, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, let alone what I wanted to do tomorrow. We're just not planned that way. Our wiring doesn't quite work that way. I find myself in the real world trying to find a job, and I land a job at a software distribution company that happens to sell assistive technology. And it was a fit for me because I knew how to use all this tech from my personal experience. And I became a trainer, and I went into schools and started training students on how to use this technology. I didn't quite agree with the philosophy that the company was using. It was a very tech-focused philosophy. I understood just through my own lived experience the challenges and the stigma that having dyslexia creates, and how that is such a barrier to anything and everything in the academic world. So I put an early emphasis when working with students on relationships and helping them understand that they're not stupid like I'm not stupid, and that they just learn a little bit differently, and that these tools are going to unlock all of that potential that they have inside. And this really, really worked well. I took that concept and then founded my own organization called LEARNstyle, with the sole concept of how can we affect as many students with learning disabilities to give them the success that I was experiencing through this relationship-based technology coaching model.
So are you working with children in schools, or is this a private business outside of the regular education sphere?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we partner with school boards. We work with their special education departments, and we essentially become their coaching arm, supporting all of their students that are prescribed special equipment, assistive technology to support their learning needs.
You must meet a lot of parents that are in a bit of a desperate state as they hope that they can get help for their kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. Over the years, we've supported well over 30,000 students, and we've delivered close to 300,000 direct to student coaching hours. And as you mentioned, parents are often involved in those coaching hours, sitting alongside their child, learning the assistive technology alongside their son or daughter. And yes, we have met many parents, had many conversations around advocacy, around the supports that schools have, and how to best navigate that.
Do you have any feel-good stories about successes that you've seen there?
It's exciting. We have way more feel-good success stories than we have challenges. One that really stands out was a little guy that one of our reading intervention coaches were working with. Student was a non-reader, putting them through an intervention, a tier 3 reading intervention program, got the student reading. And at the very end, he felt so accomplished that he just looked at the coach and said, little people can do really big things. And you could just see the transformation in this child. And on a daily basis, we have such an advantage to be able to sit with these kids and see those aha moments and see those lights turn on. The thing that really gets me inspired is to see these kids that have been trying so hard with little success all of a sudden start feeling success, and then just the passion for learning and the passion for wanting to do something with their lives come alive inside of them. And that is the success that we get to feel every single day.
That's very rewarding work, for sure.
Absolutely.
So how long have you been running the business, and I guess what do you see for it next? How would you like to see it grow?
Founded LEARNstyle back in 2008. Where I really see us going is supporting the IEP process. I acquired a company out of Peterborough called Cardinal Software back in 2018. And at the time, they were the largest providers of IEP services within the province. One of the things that I come to realize, having worked with so many students one-on-one, that so many kids do not realize they're on an IEP or individual education plan. And many parents, they don't really understand the purpose of it, considering it gets pulled out typically once a year, it gets reviewed, it gets signed off on, and it ends. Talking to many of our education partners, there's a shared belief that the spirit of the IEP should be a living document. But in fact, it becomes more of a document of compliance than anything. So through the acquisition of the software company, we've been reimagining what that IEP process looks like, breathing life into it, making it way more discoverable and visible for our classroom and frontline educators. And my belief is when we're able to wrap kids in the proper supports that they have at young ages, they won't go through the turmoil of feeling stupid and feeling dumb. They'll never have that experience. They're just going to experience learning perhaps different skills and different strategies than other kids in the class, but at the same rate, still progressing what they're learning as a quote unquote normal student in that classroom. That's what my belief is we can get there. And that's my hope that we're able to unlock the potential in all these kids.
Well, it certainly sounds like, unfortunately for you, it took until university, but it sounds like if you get to kids much earlier, the success rate certainly much higher.
100%. And that's one of the things the Right to Read really pulled out just from the reading context, is how much evidence there is on that early intervention. If we can get there, meet the student where they're at earlier on, then we mitigate all of these challenges downstream.
Now, generally, I ask our guests what they would tell their 8-year-old self now knowing what they know, but I imagine you're talking to 8-year-olds all the time. So what do you tell them?
I look at them square in the eyes and I say, you are super important. You think differently than most of the people in this world. And we need people like you to tackle some of the biggest problems that this world has. You are going to be the difference maker. You are going to be the change maker. So be sure that you get out there, that you find the success and find the way that you learn best so that you can grow into that important change maker that we need you to be. That's what I tell an 8-year-old me, and that's what I tell kids on a daily basis.
Well, you're pretty successful either way, so something worked.
Well, I appreciate that.
But it sounds like a lot of your learning did come from those workarounds, like you were talking about, how you just have to handle things in a different manner than maybe other people would. But in the end, it still has the same results.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I stated earlier, I think one of the fringe benefits, if you will, of having a learning disability or dyslexia or ADHD is just the fact that you need to grind more at a younger age. And that resiliency, in my opinion, is one of the greatest life skills to have. And some people, that success comes naturally easy to them through the academic world. When they get into the real world, they struggle with the challenge. I find many people living with a learning disability or dyslexia, again, it's kind of our default to be in that uncomfortable state. And as a result, we are able to your point, try again until we finally succeed. It's funny, I was asked to host the alumni awards at Trent University a couple of years back, and they gave me this massive script. And Dave, honestly, the first sentence I stumbled and I realized there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So I just kind of put it down, took a deep breath. I'm like, we're going to take a different angle this year on this, and just began to have more of a conversation with the audience. And I knew the people's names. I knew what they were being awarded for. So I was able to turn it into a little bit more of a dialogue as opposed to reading a script. I struggle with that.
I bet. Well, that's it, right? I mean, I imagine with all you've learned, it's still a part of your life.
Oh, completely. I apologize again for really messing up last week and not being available. For me to write an email trying to convey that is so challenging. So I landed upon this tool called BombBomb, which is a video email service that mostly realtors use, actually. I use it for myself because writing something is such a energy rich activity that it can drain me. If I write a couple of emails in a day, I am truly tired. Doing this is something I'm good at. So I find that I send way more video email, being that I'm way more concise and can actually pull my thoughts together. Whereas in a rambling email that obviously, or in many cases, doesn't make sense or is riddled with errors, just as I said, depletes me, but also takes a stab at that self-esteem. I always feel silly sending them. That those are part of the workarounds that I've been able to figure out that allow me to get through a day with feeling good about myself.
Nice. DJ, thanks so much for sharing your story and your time with us today on the Market Red broadcast.
Again, thanks for having me.